I'll be presenting to you the deployment of BRP Teresa Magbanwa MRB 97001 in Skoda Shoal. There are actually two reasons why the Commandant has decided to deploy BRP Teresa Magbanwa in Skoda Shoal. The first reason is primarily because of the presence of the Chinese maritime militia vessels. As early as mid-part of this month, last April, we were able to monitor more than 30 Chinese maritime militia vessels in this area. And then we also noted that there are also Chinese research vessels doing some activities in Skoda Shoal. Considering the result of the survey conducted by Dr. Anticamara in the Sandy case, we suspected that the Chinese are actually doing the same reclamation activities in Skoda Shoal. That's why when the Commandant learned about this intelligence report that there is a large number of Chinese maritime militia swarming in Skoda Shoal together with the Chinese research vessels, Admiral Ronnie Hilgavan decided to deploy the BRP Teresa Magbanwa together with some of our divers, and the intention why he has decided to deploy the largest Coast Guard vessel on the Philippine Coast Guard fleet is for us to have a prolonged presence, for us to last long, and it's not just a matter of days, but even we can stay there for more than a month. So that's the basis of the Commandant why he deployed BRP Teresa Magbanwa last April 15. Next slide. Our vessel, BRP Teresa Magbanwa, departed Puerto Princesa last 16 April. And on the same day, she also arrived Skoda Shoal. And then I think in this particular operational area, what is worth noting here is that Sabina Shoal is only merely 71 nautical miles away from the nearest coastline of the province of Palawan. It can be translated to 132 kilometers. So you can just imagine how close the Chinese activities now are. I mean, comparing it with the small-scale reclamation that they did in Sandy Cay, which is more than 200 nautical miles, although it falls within the territorial sea of Pag-asa. But the Sabina Shoal is actually the area where we do our rendezvous with the AFP resupply boat. So that's very alarming because it's very close. Next slide. Our divers that joined the mission has conducted their own survey in different sandbars and atolls along the Skoda Shoal. For the number 1. I-click mo yung 1. Kim, click mo yung 1 na picture. Video yan. Akin na dito yan. Ako na lang magkukontrol. Hindi abot. Ikaw na lang mag-control kung hindi abot. I-click mo yung 1 na video. I-play mo. So, as what I mentioned a while ago, no, we have divers on board. And our the mission objective of our divers is also to check on the seabed surrounding Skoda Shoal. So this was the first area where the Philippine Coast Guard deployed our divers. At ang nakita nga natin dito are all merely dead corals na, no, on the seabed in Skoda Shoal. This further reinforced yung argument ni Dr. Anticamara na supposedly what we can see here is a very healthy marine ecosystem sana because there is a very limited marine traffic. There's not so much number of fishing vessels that enter here. Pero, yun, patay na siya. Yung hyperlink bot, yan. Number 2. And then the second point where we deployed our divers, this also similar with what you saw at Sandy Cay. Obvious na obvious yung tambak kumpara dun sa seabed niya talaga, no? You can see from the discoloration nung difference ng tinambak at ng color ng seabed. I think it's also important for you to note that the Coast Guard also took samples, just like what we did in Sandy Cay, no? For us to compare kung ano yung coral bed na naitambak at yung seabed na nandyan siya talaga. And then third point. These are also crushed corals, no? As you move farther, makikita mong obvious na obvious tinambak to. And then comparing it with the usual na dead corals na makikita mo, comparing it with the first point na pinuntahan natin, ganyan lang sila sana, no? May sandy area part and then you can see the dead corals. Pero dun sa earlier part ng video, makikita mo yung tumaas na naging elevated na seabed part are actually crushed corals. Medyo umitim-itim na lang siya ngayon dahil natagalan na siyang hindi natatambakan. Next. 4. So, the question last Saturday was, dun sa mga dun sa mga areas na hindi na siya nasa ilalim ng tubig, ano na ang total area niya? So, for the point number 4, hindi na siya nakalubog even during high tide. And we measured it, ang laki niya na is, it has a length of 8 meters and a width of 7 meters. So basically, it's 56 square meters yung total area na dun sa point 4 na pinuntahan namin. And then on the point number 5, we also did the survey of the measurement of the total area. But I think siguro negligible pa kaya hindi nalagyan ng total estimated area. Next slide. And then for point number 8, you can also see dead corals and also for 11, 12, and number 10. Ang difference lang nito nung nakaraang previous slide is that we received data ng estimated area niya. For example, for the point number 9, although submerged pa rin naman siya, nakita ng mga divers natin na ang lawak niya, it has a length of 78 meters and width of 13.9 meters. So that's the total area wherein crushed corals were already dumped. And then for point number 11, it has an area of 5.8 meters by 5 meters na area na itinambak din. Later after the presentation, I will be giving you the videos nitong presentation na to. And then, since it's important for us to also use this, no, na merong, sa mga videos na ibibigay namin sa inyo, nandun talaga yung grid coordinates ng videos. Para hindi tayo mamali. Kasi napansin namin, minsan kapag sinabi sa balita na sa Sabina Shoal, minsan yung common tao, they would think na isang area lang siya. Kaya dito sa slides namin, we decided to scatter the presentation of the videos para matukoy natin talaga na ang Sabina Shoal are different parts of atolls, no, and sandbars. Para ma-visualize ng mga viewers natin na hindi ito isang shoal lang, no? Just like Baho de Masinloc, no? Baho de Masinloc is isang malaking U-shape lang talaga, di ba? But Sabina Shoal is different. Meron siyang different low tide elevation maritime features na may mga areas na tumaas na, may mga areas na lumawak na. At least maintindihan ng mga tao na yung video and photos na ipipresent nyo sa mga balita, hindi lang to iisang area. Next. So, for the entire duration of almost almost a month of our prolonged presence in Skoda Shoal, we were able to monitor the presence of three PLA Navy vessels and PLA Navy helicopters. Next slide. And then the Chinese Coast Guard vessels, itong mga Coast Guard vessels na to, if you can recall, these are the bow numbers of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels that are also constantly deployed in Ayungin Shoal every time you are being harassed. I think Joseph can still recall the Chinese Coast Guard that tailed them going to Ayungin. Next. We have also monitored Chinese maritime militia. They are actually nested together, and at any one time, the Chinese maritime militia there are more than 20. Next. These are the Chinese research vessels that we documented. No? The High CE 3301 is actually the mother research vessel of the other two. Because these two vessels below are the smaller research vessels. Ito yung nagdadala ng mga divers ng China for them to be able to document the seabed of Skoda Shoal. Next. In total, we documented 4 China Coast Guard vessels, 3 research vessels, and then 3 PLA Navy vessels and 3 helicopters. So in total, 10 plus 44 Chinese maritime vessels were deployed by the People's Republic of China as they carry out this illegal small-scale reclamation in Skoda Shoal. Next slide. So beginning 7 May, we documented the presence of these 3 Chinese maritime surveillance ships. Sabi ko nga kanina, the larger Chinese research vessel serve as the mother boat, and the 2 smaller research vessels are actually the ones carrying the marine scientists and also roam around Skoda Shoal. Next slide. So, the smaller Chinese research vessels are also deploying service boats, no? And these service boats are not deploying fishermen, Chinese fishermen, but they're actually carrying on board divers. And we believe that these divers are not ordinary divers. They're actually marine scientists carrying out measurement, for example, or even taking samples from the seabed and making observation using camera. Next slide. Every time we get the chance to get near the service boats using our rigid hull inflatable boat, we always take that opportunity. No? Our Coast Guard vessel, our RIB, usually get near the service boats for us to see what are the equipment that they are carrying on board their service boats. But on those instances that we're about to get near the service boats, the Chinese RIBs, the rigid hull inflatable boats of the Chinese Coast Guard, always block the Coast Guard RIB for us to be prevented in getting near the service boats and to check on the equipment of the divers. Next slide. But by the use of our drones, we can still see the activities of the divers. So from here, you can actually see that they have different equipment that they are giving to the service boats. We actually have photos to show that they have measuring instruments and cameras as they document the seabed of Skoda Shoal. Next slide. Next. Next slide. So for the Philippine Coast Guard vessels, we have anchored BRP Teresa Magbanwa. And again, I would like to repeat, this is the longest period of a Coast Guard vessel has been deployed in the West Philippine Sea. Now on its 29th day of deployment. It's actually anchored at Sabina Shoal. And every once in a while, the two 44-meter vessels support BRP Teresa Magbanwa for logistical concerns. No? And our ways forward is that we are now currently discussing with the UPMSI and Dr. Anticamara because we believe we need our marine scientists to document the activities of the Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese Maritime Militia, and the scientific evidence that they can gather can be submitted to the Department of Justice and the Department of Foreign Affairs for whatever legal and diplomatic actions that the national government can be able to make use of it. Next slide. So that ends my presentation regarding this, and I'm now open for your questions.
Thank you. I just wish to clarify that last September, PCG announced that in this Escoda and Iroquois Shoal, you found destructions of coral reefs. I just wonder how it has been deteriorated since last September. Was it formed, this kind of destruction mainly formed after the September last year, or just would like to know the period?
Well, first of all, the survey that we conducted last year in Luzul Reef and Escoda Shoal, we were actually supported by the UP Marine Science Institute. They have the data as to what were the observations that they have, whether is it do they have observed more number of living corals, or right now it has deteriorated. That's why my response to that question is that I would still be waiting for the other survey to be conducted by UPMSI and the marine scientists. But for the Philippine Coast Guard, I think what is notable with the survey that we conducted last year and this in the past weeks is that right now, what is more apparent and what is more obvious is that there are now dump corals. Because last year, there were no dump corals that we noticed. So this is the most alarming part of our findings. That is the reason why we need to, once again, bring the UPMSI and also to compare the data that they gathered last year and for this current time.
So when do you estimate that dumping happened mainly?
To be honest with you, we really don't know yet the timeline. When did they start the dumping of the corals?
Hi, Sir. Michael Deliso po sa abs-cbn. We'd just like to get your comment on the tweet of Ray Powell. China is allegedly sending a huge force to seal off Scarborough Shoal ahead of the Atenito mission.
Well, si Ray Powell, of course, he is using satellite to monitor the movement of vessels. No? And I also saw his tweet. He is actually forecasting that the vessels that he monitored na papuntang Bajo de Masinloc, the intention is to block the Atenito sail, no, going to BDM. But again, these are just a forecast, no, a prediction of what would really transpire. On the part of the Philippine government, I think what should be highlighted here is that the atin ito initiative of sailing to BDM is not sanctioned by the National Task Force West Philippine Sea or even by the Philippine Coast Guard. No? Ginagawa nila ito as a member of the civil society that advocates awareness for the West Philippine Sea. For the Philippine Coast Guard, our objective is only to ensure the safety of those who will be joining. We have to make sure that they will not be harassed or at least injured kung sakaling iharas sila ng Chinese Coast Guard. But the Commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard, Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan, has already issued a directive that if ever such atin ito initiative will still push through sa araw na sinabi ni Ms. Rafaela, then the Philippine Coast Guard should be proactive, no, in ensuring the safety ng ating mga kababayan na magjo-join dito. Ulit. Well, for the Philippine Coast Guard, the Commandant has already expressed his commitment that our role will only be limited to ensuring the safety and security of those civilians who will be joining the coalition. But again, let me stress the fact that this initiative is not sanctioned by the national government or by the National Task Force West Philippine Sea. This initiative is only led by atin ito coalition, and this not sanctioned by the Coast Guard.
Proactive, sir, meaning are you going to send an escort? And what's your advice to the atin ito mission? Do we still encourage them to pursue it, or are we going to discourage them because of the danger?
Well, first of all, no, bilang Pilipino, kung gusto nilang maglayag dito, that's their right, no? Again, sa Coast Guard, we just have to ensure that they are safe. I won't be discussing the operational details of the deployment, but as what I said, the Commandant intends to provide safety and security sa ating ito coalition.
Hi, Sir. Mads po from Net25. Sir, aside po sa Sabina, saan-saan pa po tayo merong nakita na mga tambak ng dead corals na parang panimula na to ng paggawa ng artificial island? Thank you po.
Ang unang pagkakita natin dito is sa Sandy case. No? May mga kasamaan tayo sa media dito, nakaapa kayo mismo, nakakuha kayo mismo ng mga samples. Nakita nyo dito yung mga crash corals na itinambak nila. So that's the first instance na nakitaan natin ng ganito. So this is only the second time na nakakita tayo ng ganitong pagtambak ng crash corals. But let me also stress the fact na ang tanong kasi ng karamihang mga kababayan natin is, since nag-deploy tayo ng Coast Guard dito sa Sabina Shoal, ano na ba ang naging effect nito? No? The mere fact that the Philippine Coast Guard vessel deterred the People's Republic of China in continuing this small-scale reclamation, I think we have become very effective in doing this. No? Since day one, nung nag-deploy tayo ng barko dito, ang ginawa na ng mga divers natin is we measured all those areas that are suspected to be subjected for small-scale reclamation. And every once in a while, sinusukat naman natin uli ito. And yet, nakita natin na wala namang paglago or paglaki ng total area nito. Ibig sabihin, the Chinese government was prevented in continuing this small-scale reclamation. So, it is worth noting that we have become very successful in preventing China from continuing the small-scale reclamation.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Sir, now we are seeing more Chinese reclamation activities nearer to the Philippines. What do you think is the danger to the national security to the Philippines? And also, are we gonna deploy a longer period in South China Sea for the PCG? Thank you.
Well, when you say more number of small-scale reclamation, it appears you're mentioning that there are other numerous areas. No? But let me first clarify, there's only Sandy case and Sabina Shoal. So right now, we have only monitored and proven that there is really an ongoing dumping of dead corals, crushed corals. So in those two areas. Second, your question is how are we going to prevent them, the People's Republic of China, from doing this? Of course, our transparency initiative is our way to expose the Chinese illegal actions in the West Philippine Sea. The mere fact that more countries now are becoming more aware of the blatant disregard of the People's Republic of China in harming the marine environment, I think that's already creating so much impact to condemn this kind of illegal action of China. Secondly, on the level of our deployment, of course, I already mentioned this, that the Commandant, Admiral Gavan, has expressed his commitment that in those instances that we can be able to monitor this kind of activities, the Coast Guard will be deploying our large vessels for us to maintain prolonged presence. Now, the third question is, what is the danger? What is the danger of? What is the danger? What is the danger of? Third question is, what's the danger of this small-scale reclamation? You know, Sabina Shoal, or Escolda Shoal, is very close from Palawan province. Secondly, this is the rendezvous point of the Philippine Coast Guard and the Armed Forces of the Philippines whenever we do the resupply mission. So try to imagine, the Chinese have already established a naval base through the Mischief Reef. And then in between Mischief Reef and Sabina Shoal is already Ayungin Shoal. If the Chinese will be very successful in carrying out this kind of reclamation and then converting this once again to another naval base or something, it will be very difficult for the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine Coast Guard to do the resupply mission because they have already encircled the entire Ayungin Shoal if ever they're going to be successful in Sabina Shoal. That's what I'm saying is that the Commandant for the Philippine Coast Guard has to make sure that we're not going to allow China from carrying out a successful reclamation in Sabina Shoal.
And also, I would like to ask, there are 20 Taiwanese lawmakers, they are going to Ituaba on May 18. So what's our response to that? And also, are we also monitoring their activities? Thank you.
The question for Ituaba, I think, should be addressed to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Yes, Gio.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, former Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio suggested na aside sa presence natin sa Sabina Shoal, since BRP Terasa Magban has been there and it's on 29th day niya today, is it enough na presence lang yung meron tayo doon, or should we build na fisherman's a shelter like what China did sa Mischief Reef over decades ago?
You know, Gio, for the Philippine Coast Guard, the instruction is very clear. No? We're just going to be deployed in those areas that are decided by the National Task Force West Philippine Sea, and for us to maintain our presence. As to the higher level of decision making of doing a fisherman shelter or grounding another vessel, this is beyond the Philippine Coast Guard mandate, and we will respect that if ever that will be the decision of the national government. But as far as our action is concerned, and the only thing that we can contribute in maintaining our presence, we just have to deploy our vessels, be there for a prolonged presence, and make sure that we're going to prevent China from doing whatever illegal actions that they're carrying out.
All right, last question from my end. Over the weekend, Chinese embassy was asked about their presence of their vessels sa Sabina Shoal, pero they did not confirm nor deny yung mga nasa kanila yung mga vessel na yun. Why do you think so? Na yung China medyo they're shrugging off these questions, or hindi talaga sila nagko-confirm on this one?
Well, actually, I saw the report from Joseph Morong. What he showed there is a smiley of the Chinese embassy saying PCG thinks. No, I think. Well, I wouldn't choose I think, no, but I would say the PCG confirms that the Chinese Coast Guard, the Chinese Maritime Militia, the Chinese research vessels, and the Chinese PLA Navy vessels are there. I won't say I think, because we have the photos, we have the videos to show to the international community that all of these maritime forces are intruding our own exclusive economic zone, and that they are carrying out illegal research whatsoever, and that is a violation of the international law. This is perhaps the reason why our good friend from the Chinese embassy is not that confident to say and to confirm that that's their vessel. But again, let me stress this fact. It's not that I think that these are their vessels. We have photos and videos to prove that. And they should be man enough to accept that they have really deployed and intruded our own waters, because for so many number of years they have been doing that, right? Joseph.
So can I just break down yung videos and photos that you showed, no? Period again, what's the period?
Since we've been there April 16
16th to
until now.
until now. You said that we have prevented already
Yes.
Chinese activities. So the 44 vessels that you showed us, are they still there?
Well, iba-iba. Sometimes it decreases, sometimes they maintain the number of vessels, but that's the highest number of vessels that we monitor.
Hindi to, sir, parang one time. It's say parang
It
monitoring.
changes every once in a while.
All right. So you showed a mound, no, of parang corals, and you suspect that this is a reclamation activity.
Yes.
And you took pains in saying that there are several parts to Sabina Shoal.
Yes.
Are you saying, first off, where did you spot this mound? Maybe just general coordinates, maybe, ano ba to? Near to Palawan or north, south, east?
Ano?
Hindi, ibig sabihin, you took pains kanina, sabi mo,
Yes.
yung Escoda or Sabina, it's not just one parang sandbar, it's several atolls.
Yes.
Yung mound that we saw, that you suspect to be, and not suspect, you're saying this is reclamation. Where is this located?
Slides.
Saan yun?
Next slide. Yeah. So you can see from the photos, no, for the point 5 and 4, that's the area na hindi na siya nakasubmerge. But what we're showing here are already crushed corals dumped into these areas. Next slide. And also in these areas, 10, 9, 11, 12. These are still submerged, but you can notice the dumping of the crushed corals because of the difference of the color.
Okay. Are you saying that apart from the mound that you showed us in the photos, maybe wala, but parang nakita ko dito, parang nawala. Yung mound, yung parang isang sandbar doon na lutang na. Di ba may video kanina? Or nasa memory ko lang yung dati pa yan?
Kim, i-play mo nga muna ulit. I-click mo yung video. Video mismo.
Saan yung mound?
This one, 10, or yung may diver?
Hindi sir, yung parang horizon shot siya na parang may nakalutang.
Ah, ito, 3?
Hindi sir, yung ewan ko kung nasa ala ko lang.
3. Click mo yung 3. I think it's number 3. Ito?
Anyway, sir, my point is, are you saying, because there are several areas in Sabina that are several reclamation activities being done by China?
Yes.
Several.
Yes.
Because they're dumping corals.
Within this area of Sabina Shoal. Yes.
Yun.
There are
So
different...
yung kay Pat, ito, anong number ano yan dun sa, number ano yan
Attorney,
dyan?
ayun o, yung ipinost ko sa media, ano.
Kasi kung so while they're trying to show it, ibig sabihin, several,
Nasa Twitter ko yun. Di ba nasa Twitter? Oh.
which one? The real,
Yung mataas na gano'n.
the one, the Chinese made or yours? Sorry, going back to the question. So there are several activities,
Yes.
reclamation activities in Sabina, right? Ngayon, yung mga nakita natin, sir, na mga divers nang nasa video niya, sa mga rib, nasa speedboat, are they located anywhere near these areas, especially on that mound?
That's a very good question. We have yet to check. Actually, this is the reason why we were not able to give away the videos and photos, no? Kasi ikinonfirm pa talaga namin yung locations nung mga videos na ibibigay namin sa inyo mamaya. I think we should also check the coordinates, attorney, nung sinasabi ni Joseph na mga divers na may service boats. We need to check whether it is near the area na meron ng mataas na tambak or dun sa area na may submerged pa. I think that's a very fair question.
Because maybe the Chinese will just say, well, there we're swimming, but you didn't see them dump the corals, right?
Yes. I think this is the reason why we can say na we are effective in deterring China from doing this small-scale reclamation. Because China also doesn't want to get caught on how they do it. It still puzzles Dr. Anticamara. It also puzzles us. How do they dump the dead corals? Is it through sandbagging? Is it through hydraulic vacuum? There are different ways. Pero ang intention nga natin dito, why we decided to anchor the Philippine Coast Guard vessel as the rigid hull inflatable boats roam around the area, is to catch them talaga, for us to know how they're doing this. Since wala pa talaga tayong photo or image na kung paano natin masasabing how they are doing it, yan yung gusto nating malaman. However, Kim, akin na nga yung HDMI, para tingin mo nga yan dito. However, dahil gusto ko ring malaman how they do it, no? We came across an academic journal written by the Chinese marine scientists, no? So, dahil dito, we are already coming up with our hypothesis how they are doing this. Because in that academic journal that I will also be sharing with you guys para maintindihan nyo rin kung anong ginagawa nila, isinulat nila rito sa academic journal na to kung paano nila at ano ang dahilan why they are making use of crushed corals. Siguro tong academic journal na to, you can read it through, and then you can ask the Chinese embassy. Kasi ang nagsulat nito, Chinese marine scientist. Baka sabihin niya, J. Tariela thinks na naman . This academic journal was written by marine scientists of China. By the name itself, no? Pangalan pa lang. And these are also universities of China. See? Chinese Academy of Sciences in Wuhan, no? Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing, Guangzhou University in Guangzhou, China, Zhejiang University of Technology in Hangzhou, China. So all of this marine scientists na nagsulat nito are all Chinese and belong to Chinese universities. Do you agree? Yes, di ba? Kasi sabi sa academic journal, sila talaga daw to. Ngayon, based on this academic journal, in which, again, I won't take the liberty in explaining to you the content of this academic journal, but I'll show you the photos that they use. According to this academic journal, the figure 2 of that academic journal, they are using coral reef fragments, no? And they are also making use of hydraulic reclamation using a pipe orifice area. Ibig sabihin, meron daw silang pipe. Meron silang mahiwagang tubo na inilalagay sa ilalim dyan. At from there, they use that to throw etong mga crash corals na to. Second, in that academic journal, they also noted na ginagawa din daw to sa may Nansha Islands. Diba? So, even without, dignifying kung saan yung Nansha Island na yan, definitely alam naman natin kung saan. No? So, on the figure number 4 of the academic article, they also show this. No? Ito ang nakita nyo rin sa Sandy case. At ito rin ang nakita natin sa Skoda Shoal. So, ibig sabihin, the Chinese, whether sanctioned by the state or not, have already came up with a study on how to do island building in making use of the coral reef, in making use of crushed corals. No? I won't go into the details because I know, alam ko namang ang level of comprehension nyo would also understand the content of this academic journal. So, ayokong i-explain to on my own. You can probably ask marine scientists on their comment about this academic journal. But again, what I'm saying is that these marine scientists who belong to Chinese universities are explaining the use of hydraulic reclamation in the South China Sea and the characteristic of the poros that they showed in their academic journal is similar with what we saw in Sandy case and also in Skoda Shoal. So perhaps this academic journal is the explanation of how they do things in doing a small-scale reclamation.
Sir, just out of curiosity, how did it reach the PCG's mind na, uy, may reclamation activity dun? Because I'm sure before you sent out Magbanwa, you had prior information, but when did you parang learn of and how?
Well, ang pinaka-triggering point natin to really call this kind of activities as small-scale reclamation was the result of the study conducted by Dr. Anticamara.
In Bagasa?
Ay,
In
the
Sabina.
case,
Oh,
the
yes.
Sandy case, no? And then sa Sandy case, well, of course, he's already a scientist that explains na ito, hindi to natural occurrence. There is a human-induced activity kung bakit nagkaroon ng ganitong mga dump corals. And then from then on, naging mindful na tayo. Every time na may makikita tayong mga ganyang, yung parang nakita natin sa Sandy case. So every time the Philippine Coast Guard vessels are patrolling, and even with our informants reported by the Filipino fishermen, na may ganito, parang tumaas tong ganito, or bumabaw tong seabed na to, that prompted the Philippine Coast Guard to go to Skoda Shoal.
Why Escoda? You could go to maybe a Yung.
It's because it's only in
Iroquois.
Escoda that we learned about this.
How? Na fishermen?
Yeah, they saw that there is this parang alarming na tumaas na tambak na ganon. That's why we confirmed it by deploying the Coast Guard vessel with the divers.
So yun muna, sir, pinipigilan ang mga tao mo.
Ang dami mo na daw kasing tanong.
Sir, may capacity ba tayo na i-monitor yung mga barko? Like for example, kapag magpatay sila ng AIS or hindi sila ma-detect natin. Especially yung Chinese, may mga dark vessels sila, kumbaga as mentioned by Ray Powell. If ever po ba na ginagawa ng China yung reclamation tuwing gabi?
There's a possibility that they're doing that. But let me first respond to your question. Paano natin monitor yung dark vessel? By the name itself, the Canadian government supports us with the dark vessel detection capability. So even if the Chinese will be turning off their AIS, mamomonitor pa rin natin sila.
Okay. Thank you.
Kyodo News.
Sorry, once again. I just wish to ask you about the role mission to Ion Shoal. I'm sorry. We are thankful to you for the transparency and openness about the details of the role mission. You allowed us embedding to the mission. You disclose these images, how you deliver your supplies to your soldiers there. But since 23rd March, we haven't seen any announcement about RORE mission. I just wonder that you changed your policy about your transparency and stopped announcing about the mission.
Well, first of all, the decision to do a resupply mission is decided by the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Department of National Defense. So, to be honest with you, I also don't know whether there's a RORE mission. Because again, the Coast Guard is only there to provide security escort vessels every time the resupply mission is being conducted. Right now, we haven't received any requests in doing such mission of providing security escort. So I cannot respond as to when is the next resupply mission because, as I said, there is still no request for us to provide security escort. Second, your question, did we change our policy? I don't think so. The mere fact that we're still doing this kind of activities of exposing the Chinese illegal activity in the West Philippine Sea, the transparency remains to be part of the strategy in the West Philippine Sea.
So you meant that since 23rd March, there was no request to escort for the mission?
Yes, we haven't done any escort mission yet for the resupply mission. So as to when will be the next resupply mission, we still don't know. Again, the Coast Guard is only asked to provide security escort, but as to when will be the next resupply mission, it is not the Coast Guard who decides.
Thank you.
Joseph, nakatingin sa ACG2, nakakarami ka na doon.
Ito na naman kami. Sir, patawarin mo na. So you mentioned the DOJ and did you say OSG?
DOJ and DFA.
DFA. Now that you have this, you can call this evidence of Chinese activity, no?
Well, not yet. As what I said, we're still going to bring the UPMSI because their scientific evidence of things will be more, valid in using it as an evidence. But as far as the Coast Guard is concerned, what we can only present to the public is the general observation with no scientific explanation of things. So we would still rely on the UPMSI for them to use science in explaining whether the expansion of a particular maritime feature is a natural occurrence or not, those kind of things.
And what are you going to do with the scientific information, and how soon will you use this for what purpose?
Well, those scientific evidence that the UPMSI and other marine scientists can be able to gather once we bring them there will be submitted to the National Task Force West Philippine Sea. And considering the DOJ and DFA are part of this interagency task force, then it will be dependent on how the Department of Justice and the Department of Foreign Affairs will use it for whether legal or diplomatic action for the Philippines.
Okay, thank you.
Mike daw, sabi ni...
Sorry. Until when are you, is Magbanwa staying in the Sabina Shoal?
Well, the Commandant, Admiral Gavan, has mentioned that as long as it takes or as long as it allows the operational capability of our vessel, we're going to maintain our presence there. We're going to hold the line so that Chinese government will be prevented in doing this illegal activity in Iskoda Shoal.
Sir, curious lang ako, last question. If we combine yung mga supposed mount or mga tambak na allegedly ginawa ng China doon, gaano na kaya kalawak ito in different areas if we combine it?
If we,
Both elevated and yung underwater.
I would leave that to the UPMSI. I mean, they have a scientific way in estimating the number of corals that were dumped and also the area of the corals that might have already been affected because of this kind of activities.
Sir Vince Lopez from Manila Standard. Question lang po. Siguro, para na rin sa kapanatagan ng mga sasama sa civilian convoy, meron na po ba tayong nakalatag?
Sasama ka ba?
Kung pwede, sir, kung sasama.
Di ba sa atin ito yung paalam?
May contingency plan na po ba ang PCG na nakalatag if ever na mangyari dun sa civilian convoy yung tulad ng nangyari kina Gio na binomba sila ng tubig?
Well, definitely the Philippine government, the National Task Force West Philippine Sea has contingencies in this kind of incidents, but I won't be disclosed to the public what are those contingencies.
Thank you, Sir.
Thank
Emma.
you.
Thank you, Commander J. Tariela, and that concludes our
Attorney,
activity for
bigyan
today.
mo rin yung media nung lahat nung yung academic journal na to. Para basahin ni Joseph. 2023.